recording this, so I'm going to go ahead and start recording this now. For those folks who weren't able to tune in, but wanted to learn more, I'm going to do that. Okay, great. So some great panelists here with their own unique experiences. I often will say that Honors College students get a chance to do research early and often, regardless of their discipline. So we have a lot of sciences represented here, but I will share that when I was a student at the Honors College, I majored in sociology, and I had several opportunities to do independent research projects before I graduated, some that were, kind of alongside faculty members with their interests, but also some that were completely outside of faculty members' interests, and I just kind of brought to them, and they were willing to wander down rabbit holes with me as I was doing research. So I'm always happy to talk about research outside of the natural sciences as well. But those sort of experiences go a long way when it comes to after you graduate. And as an alum, I will just share that, having that research experience did mean that I was fully funded when I went to graduate school, and that made a really big difference for me. Not other students in my cohort didn't have the same level of sort of independent research experience, and so that definitely made a big difference. But I would love to hear from our student panelists. Would you all just start by sharing a little bit about the research you've been involved with so far?
Sure, I guess I'll go first again. So I've kind of, honestly thinking about this, I haven't really thought about all of the research projects I've been involved in, but freshman year, I started in an organic, it was like a natural products lab at MUSC, just because I was kind of bopping around, which is a terrible term for that, but I didn't know a lot about like the chemistry and biochemistry, like what it offers as a field. So I came in like pre-med, like med school. So I was like, I want to get more experience around like those areas. And like, that's a really cool part of like the Honors College. Like MUSC is the Medical University of South Carolina. I met the PI that I worked underneath through like a mixer that I learned about through like the Honors Hub, which honestly has been really helpful for me for the past 4 years. But I was there for a year. And then from then on, now I'm working in a biochemistry lab on campus under Dr. Rogers, who is an amazing faculty member of the biochem and chem department. And I'm doing more like basic science research, which I never really thought that's where I would end up, but it's been really cool. And I've been in it since sophomore year. So it's like, it's been an interesting research experience. Yeah.
I'll go next. So I'm a computer science major. I was lucky to get into the entrepreneurship living learning community in the Honors College, which I think the biggest takeaway from that for me was the mentorship. And part of that mentorship was pushing me into trying something I really didn't expect to do this early in computer science, which was research, which to be honest, I didn't know what computer science research even was. And my mentor kind of made it easy for me and was like, okay, there are two really big areas in computer science right now that you might not know that much about. So pick one and just go to those club meetings. And that was data science versus cybersecurity. I went to cybersecurity club meetings and I got into the cybersecurity research lab my freshman year. And so I did my first summer of research that freshman year, got a grant, and then stayed in that research lab through junior year. And I'd kind of completed my research in there. I'd done my bachelor's essay, and that was right around the time that my mentor moved on and has now taken a job somewhere else. But along that kind of pathway too, I had done some internships in software engineering and kind of realized that was more my path going forward than cybersecurity, as much as I loved the cybersecurity research and the exposure that I had to that field. So it kind of worked out for me that I was able to move more into a software engineering research lab, which is the CERTL's Cyber Infrastructure Development for Sciences lab with Dr. Bowering. And so I've been in there since this past summer. And so it's kind of a nice way that I'm getting to experience some different research just my senior year.
I can jump in. I actually started my research track last year as a freshman, which was really great just to kind of get in early on. I knew that I wanted to, get my hands dirty, so to speak, with marine biology in particular, which we have an excellent facility called Grice Marine Lab, which is across the bridge on Johns Island, but it's a great resource. And I actually met my faculty mentor through that the Honors College connections, and she encouraged me to pursue an independent track. So I currently work out of Bryce Marine Lab in her lab, but I was also encouraged to take that independent track and went on to do surf grant research, which I'm sure we'll touch on in a little bit. And that has continued into this semester, and I look forward to continuing my research journey.
Okay, I guess I'll go now. So I've actually been involved in 2 different research projects, and the first one I started last fall, when I was a sophomore, and I worked on that project for a semester, and it was about microplastics. There was basically like a big pellet spill in the Charleston Harbor, and I was analyzing samples that I had taken with the pellets to determine what kind of plastic they were. And I really enjoyed it, but I wanted to do something a little different. So I switched projects. It's something completely different. Right now I'm working with remote sensing to track algal blooms in the Great Lakes region, which I was really drawn to because I'm from Ohio, so I'm used to this with Lake Erie. And I've been working on that project since spring of this past year. So I worked on it in the spring, over the summer, and I'm working on it this fall. I'm planning on wrapping it up this semester. But one really great thing is over the summer, I was able to get a research grant. So I was getting paid over the summer. And I also applied for and was awarded a South Carolina NASA space grant, which is an award available to students who want to do research that aligns with NASA's mission or their goals. And so that grant is applying for this semester. So I'm also getting paid right now, as well as doing an independent study for my research. So I'm getting academic credit and getting paid, which is really, really nice.
That is nice. I love when you can like triple dip with those sort of opportunities.
It's really nice.
Go ahead. Yeah, it's really nice. So you all have mentioned sort of 2 different paths to research, and I want to just kind of clarify those 2. So you talked about research labs and then independent tracks. So would you all clarify sort of like, what's the difference between a research lab and an independent track? What do those actually look like?
I can start because I'm doing both. So like I said, I am working out of Bryce Marine Lab with a couple different faculty members. And so that's an excellent opportunity to kind of get a very baseline foundation of what research looks like in my field. However, I was encouraged to take an independent track where I took projects that my research professor was interested in, formed my own thesis, and decided that I was going to get money to put towards that experimental design. And that's where the surf grant came into play. So I'm still working out of Bryce as kind of a student fellow just to help out with some of the husbandry that happens. But then I am also doing an independent track where I have a goal and a mission that I will hopefully accomplish by Thanksgiving.
Very cool. So how did you all learn about some of the research opportunities that you've been part of? Somebody, I think Rylie, I think you mentioned specifically Honors Connection and meeting faculty, and Skye mentioned the Honors Hub. What are some of the other ways that you find out about research opportunities?
This is just kind of, I don't know if this applies to everyone, but like, oh, sorry. There's the car. The research lab I work in now, she was my major advisor. So that, like, I was just asked to jump in more, but also like, depending on what department you're with, the chemistry and biochem department, so every semester it's like they mix and match you with like different labs that are undergraduate or like at the Medical University of South Carolina. So like you get opportunities to like see, is this type of research I'm interested in, or like, is this the type of lab that I might be wanting to look at? But that's just kind of like, from my pathway, that's kind of how to look at all.
For me, I was involved in the honors college or in the computer science department pretty early. And so I'd heard all their spiels about things to do to get involved, go to clubs, do these research labs. And to get involved in research labs, you really just have to talk to your professors. And they do all have like separate research labs, and they all have different topics of study. And so me as a freshman, it was kind of just like overwhelming and I didn't know what I wanted to do immediately. So going to the clubs and getting involved that way was a good way for me to like figure out what it is I was interested. But kind of like Skye, my first research advisor was actually my major advisor. And I think that's how I got into it early, because she usually took kind of older students who had more experience, but she kind of knew me because of the advising. So it's kind of just making those connections, and showing your interest early can help you get those spots early.
Yeah, so for me, in Beyond George Street, which is the like freshman seminar class that everybody in the Honors College takes, there was this assignment. I don't remember the name of it, but you had to go talk to a professor, preferably like in your major or like your attended major, and just go like talk to them about like what research they're doing. And the person I chose was actually the research advisor that I had for my microplastics research. I didn't start it until after a year. A year after I had done the like write-up assignment. But going to her that first semester and just starting a conversation, I had a class with her next semester and she remembered me because of that. And we were able to form a relationship that at the end of the semester, she was like, hey, if you ever want to work on a research project, like here's some projects that I'm working on next semester. So that was how I got into the microplastics. And then for the remote sensing, I was in one of my major classes and my lab professor works with remote sensing, and I found the one lab that we did with remote sensing to be really, really interesting. So I just talked to him about it during his office hours, and we were able to set up an independent study where I got to explore within it.
On a similar note, BGS also has this, I guess, assignment where it's a sort of student-faculty mixer, if you will, where all of these faculty are in this room and they're sharing their incredible work and interests and passions. And many of them are actually looking on to take undergraduate associates, or just even to start a dialogue, like a lot of people have just said. Just those connections are so important to have in your back pocket. But that's how I met my research professor, and we really clicked. And I emailed her afterwards and asked if I could, potentially explore her facility out at Grice and see how else I could get involved. And so it's really great that the Honors College kind of builds that in. So you have those business cards or those emails that you can, keep throughout your career.
And those of you who are prospective students, feel free to add any questions you all have about research or not, or if you just have other questions for these students, feel free to add those in the chat box. And while you all are doing that, let me ask you all, how does being in the Honors College help you with pursuing research?
I can take that one. Early on, it was that mentorship and that advice from my entrepreneurship living learning community mentor, Professor Afonso, who made me aware, first of all, what research in computer science was. But then I also think part of that connection with the teacher was my Honors College title. Kind of made her think, well, maybe I could give this student a shot earlier, because usually, like I said, she liked more of the upperclassmen to join her research lab. So I think also just the pressure is the wrong word, but from the Honors College, their encouragement to join a research lab early definitely helped sway me in the direction of this is something I shouldn't wait on. And I think if it were up to me, I would have said no to a lot more at the beginning of my college experience, because I was just overwhelmed with college in general. But like looking back, it was so good that I said yes to all these things, including research that early, because it made things happen for me faster. It made me meet people and have opportunities faster. And I would really recommend saying yes to a lot of these opportunities that they do tell you to get involved in.
Also, this is like super random, but so during like the honors interview weekend, like that event, that we had the opportunity to talk with like faculty members within our like potential majors. And one of the faculty members I talked to was Dr. Millay. So it was like through the Honors College, like I got to meet Dr. Millay, who she's been my friend since freshman year. Like she's like one of the reasons and motivations why I like I don't work in her lab, but it's just like it was being given the opportunity to talk to a faculty member, and like I was 17, I was scared. I was like, I genuinely am not that intelligent yet. I'm not at that level, that caliber that I thought like you had to be at for like an academic setting. But just like meeting her and like meeting more of the faculty members, like the honors college helped me to realize that like it's okay to just ask like questions and like be like yes, or like it's okay for people to say no to you, because like you have to ask first to like get that offer. And it's like people aren't intimidating. So I guess like that's kind of how honors has helped me, because it helped me get over the fact that like they're people too. They're not gonna get angry at you for asking if you want to like go look at their research. But yeah.
Yeah, I was
Just to add it. Oh, sorry.
no, I was kind of wondering when Jordan said, like, as a first semester student, you have to go talk to a professor and ask them about their research. Was that intimidating to do?
It was very intimidating, and I was like really scared to do it because I felt like I was going to be a nuisance, and like I was just going to take away from the professor's time, because I had just contacted her and I was like, hey, can we just meet up and talk for like 20 minutes like during your office hours? And I felt like an inconvenience, but she was so excited to talk to me. Like, I kid you not, professors get so excited to talk to you about the research because they're doing that research because they're passionate about it. So they love when students will come up to them and just like ask them questions about it and like want to learn more, because then like those professors are getting to share their passion. So it was definitely very intimidating, but once I went, I was like, why was I scared to do this? Like, it was extremely chill. She was very nice. And it was like really easy to complete my assignment, because when I talked to her, like her passion for the project just made it so easy to write about and so easy to like, I guess, relate to and to become excited about myself as well.
So a couple of you have mentioned research funding, and I think that's definitely something we want to talk about. How do you get research funding? Why pursue research funding? What does that look like?
Rylie, you can go. It's all you.
Okay. So there's a couple different ways you can do it. First off, we should mention that we have something called the IRCA office, Undergraduate Research Creative Activities. They're fantastic. They have so many different resources to help you out. So I highly recommend just kind of exploring their webpage if you have the time and interest. But what they also have is specifically for undergraduate students is they set aside some money for you to complete research either during the summer, which is the SURF grant, so summer undergraduate research funding, or something called MAISE, which happens usually during the school semester. And these are two awesome fundings that you as an undergraduate student can apply for. There's also departmental funding. So I know from my experience, I applied for both the School of Science and Mathematics grant as well as the SURF grant. And sometimes you can get both and they'll just match, which is really convenient. But those are the two that I personally have experience with, although I know there's lots more out there.
Sorry, Skye. I think another one of the big things, at least for me, I don't think I had a SURF grant for summer research, but I had like some sort of SSM undergraduate summer research thing. But when I wanted to present my research later, I know that there was grant money for my teacher or my research advisor's project. So I was able to go and travel and have that funded. But I know that if your teacher's project isn't funding you, or if they're not funded, you can also get funding from the school to travel different places, which is super exciting and fun to do, to take a plane flight that you don't have to pay for and stay in a hotel that you don't have to pay for.
It's something that you pay for. It's called a research RPG grant. I want to say that's it. I feel like I'm saying the wrong thing, but it's like an RPG grant. Last year I got to go to CERMAX, it was in Savannah, Georgia, and it's like it's an undergraduate research event where like I got to present on like my research with like endothelial nitric oxide synthase, which I'm not going to go into because it gets a little nerdy. But like the grants have been, it's stressful to fill out the paperwork, but like the Honors College is very helpful in getting you through like the steps for that. And like IRCA is very helpful for like telling you what you need to turn in and like when you need to turn it in. But my first summer I was funded through SURF, and then this past summer I had a grant, I had an NIH Embry grant, which is still going on into the semester because of COVID, which is very interesting because I still get paid to do the research that I was doing over the summer, which is kind of nice. And now I'm doing my bachelor's essay, so it's like a combination of that.
Again, with the double and triple dipping, I love it.
So I also have experience with the School of Science and Mathematics grants. That's the grant that I was awarded for over the summer. And so my funding got like a little, not messed up, but it changed from what I thought it was going to be. So I originally applied for the NASA space grant for the summer as well, but because of COVID, my project was pushed into the fall as well. So I was able to push my funding and receive both the SSM grant and the space grant, which was really nice because I still spend a lot of time on my project this fall. So it's nice that I'm getting paid for that. And with the NASA space grant, I think it's really cool. I can say like I've been funded by NASA to do my research, which is something like not a lot of people can say, especially in an undergraduate institution. But it's really nice because they're a little bit more competitive as well than like the School of Science and Math grants or the SURF grants. So that's something nice to say as well, that I had a more competitive grant that I applied for, because the process of writing the grant was much more, not difficult, but I guess like detailed than the SSM grant that I wrote. And the way that I wrote it was, my research advisor was super nice, and he helped me like draft the grant application, and then he helped me like edit it and make sure that it sounded professional and that it was going to have a good chance of being awarded. And so you can also get help from your research advisor as well, especially if you're applying for competitive grants. They're normally more than happy to help you because that means that you get funding as well, which is really nice.
I know Skye has to go Zoom into a class now. So thanks for joining us, Skye.
Yes. If anyone has any questions about the research I do or is interested in biochem and chem, you can reach out to me. I think I'm on the website. Sorry, words hard sometimes.
Yep, you are, and I'll drop that ambassador's link. Thanks, Skye.
Yep. Bye.
And I'll make the plug as well for, so everyone here is talking about funding while you're a student, which is nice, getting paid, because research is like a part-time job. But there's also going to be opportunities for funding for postgraduate research. So things like the Fulbright, National Science Foundation grants, Rotary grants. Sometimes those type of nationally competitive awards are for you to continue your education or do some sort of service work like teaching English, but they can also fund research as well. So those are things that these folks may not be thinking about quite yet. Hopefully it's sort of in the back of your minds, but our students are really successful when it comes to applying for those sort of things after graduation as well. Okay, so research sounds like a big and abstract thing sometimes. So I would love for each of you to share what's a typical day like in the lab or the field, or if that is too boring, I'm sure it's not, what is the most interesting moment you've had during research?
Okay, I guess I'll go first. A typical day in the lab, in a computer science lab, well, I will say the lab that I'm currently in, I have never been to the lab because of COVID, but I don't think it would be that different from computer science, because it's not like you're on a computer. And so I think that the most exciting thing that's happened is just like, this is going to sound boring, but just like, I really wanted something to work and I made it work. And, I mean, that's probably really boring to try to describe, but I think for computer science, the research is very much more, even though I'm working in somebody's lab, I'm kind of doing an independent project. And so I think that it's something that you don't really get a lot of in school to work on a big project. You kind of have like a class project, which is like 1/5 of your schedule, and then like part of that class, whereas research is like kind of an overarching multiple years project. So it's really nice to have something that you've taken and you've finished, and then you could present and you could be like, I did all of this, and like somebody helped me and like supervised me and helped me along. But when I was able to like actually present research that I had done and I came up with and I accomplished and finished and had conclusions for and stuff, and present that when I traveled, that was the best part of it for me. It's really nice to have something that you've accomplished yourself. Sorry, I went on.
A typical day for me at Grice gets a little messy. So I am currently in kind of an interesting stage where some days I'm doing like very hands-on research, and other days I'm doing more of the like statistical analysis pieces. But I'll tell you about the fun days, which are the swim days is what we call them. So I am currently working with some spotted sea trout, and we have them in big tanks at the Department of Natural Resources, which is directly across the street from Grice. So that's an excellent resource at our fingertips as well. So my job essentially is to swim the fish and exhaust them. So I'm doing a lot of hands-on work. It gets very dirty and messy, and I look like I've just been swimming, but it's a lot of fun. And then afterwards, I take dissections in muscle tissues and samples, and do a lot of the microscopy work. So it's really great because I'm getting both very hands-on kind of field work, if you will, and then very traditional lab experience as well. So that's what a day looks like for me.
So for me, a typical day in the lab is me sitting in front of a computer, because remote sensing is basically just taking like these satellite images and downloading them and then processing them and then extracting data from them. So that's what I typically work on. I was supposed to go and get field samples over the summer. Unfortunately, it was canceled because of COVID, which still makes me sad, because we were going to go on like a field cruise. So we were going to go on like a big boat and go and like take the water samples. And I was so excited to do that. So I may potentially go next summer to get that experience even after my project has concluded, because I'm planning on writing my bachelor's essay with my research advisor and working on a similar project. So I'll still get that experience hopefully. But for right now, I'm just still like processing the images, and I've started to analyze the data and say, oh, like why was this image, which was taken on this specific date, why did it have so much chlorophyll in it? And then I can connect that to like water runoff data from storm events and stuff. So that's what I've been working on. But I agree with Chloe that like the best like part of research, or like the most exciting part, is like figuring something out, because I'm not very good at technology. So I think it's really interesting that I'm working on a remote sensing project that works on a computer. So I struggle a lot with working out how to use the software. And when I figured out, it's so rewarding. I feel so happy because I just wanted to scream at the computer for the past hour, and then I figured it out, and it's really nice.
I once had, so I do a lot of like qualitative research. And so I once had a research mentor say, like, when the research feels the most chaotic and the least in your hands and in your control, like that's when you're almost there. And that's when it suddenly like all comes together. And so, yeah, it definitely feels like sort of the final piece of the puzzle, and you feel like you finally done it. And that is a good feeling. What tips do you all have for incoming students when it comes to why to do research, how to get involved, anything and everything research related?
I guess I'll go first. I would definitely say go to your professor's office hours, especially if you know, if like coming in as a freshman, you know what you want to major in, or like you kind of have an idea and you had the opportunity to take a course in your major, your intended major. Definitely go to your professor's office hours, go to like the department head, because they'll definitely want to talk to you. That was really how I got involved with research, was just talking to professors about what they do. And even though it may seem like really intimidating, it's never too early. Like you're never going to reach this point where like you feel like you have enough experience to go talk to a professor. Like you have to go talk to them to get that experience in a research lab. So that's what I would recommend.
For me, I think that just looking back on my experiences with research, I did get started early. I would totally recommend that. But I would also recommend reaching out to people in the labs and really trying to figure out what a day in the life of that lab looks like. And then not making yourself be like, okay, I have to pick this one and I have to stay there. Like, I think if you talk to somebody and talk to a research advisor and tell them what you're interested in and try to do even like a trial run, but I mean, like, obviously you're going to say, I'm like going to be committed to this, but like, for me, I did my first research lab and I stayed there 3 years, and now I'm in another research lab and I'm really, really loving it. And it's different from my first one. And honestly, even though I loved my first experience and I'm super grateful for all that it taught me, I kind of like the second one more. And I don't know if it would have been the same if I'd done it earlier, but just the advice that I would give to somebody just starting out would be really talk to the people that are currently in the labs or have worked with those professors before, and figure out if that's what you're looking for and if that's what you're wanting from that lab.
On a similar note, I think it's really, I knew that, at least for me going into it, I knew I wanted marine biology, but I didn't know what marine biology. It's a pretty diverse field, and I just didn't know if research was going to be for me or if it would continue on to graduate school or what that was going to be like. So getting that experience is now kind of swayed where I think I want to know. So just kind of going into it with an open mind, knowing that it's going to be a valuable experience no matter what. So now that, like I said, I was working with fish, now I know like 100% certainty that that's what I want to do with the rest of my life. So I'm really happy for that opportunity. And now I'm able to maybe more specify. So I just would highly recommend keeping an open mind, even if you don't know what your major is going to be like or anything like that. Just know that it's gonna be a valuable experience no matter what.
Yeah, that's great advice. Any questions for our panelists? Those of you who are joining us, feel free to unmute yourself or ask away in the chat box. Rylie, I can tell you're outside the library because I heard the bell toll 4 times. You all must have done a really good job. Covered it all. Awesome. Well, any final words from our panelists? Anything that you feel like we've definitely got to add?
Nothing related to research, but just good luck to everybody with like the college application process. I know if you're a senior, like those deadlines are going to be coming up soon. So it's a really exciting time. Don't take it for granted.
I will say, as a senior about to this being my last year, research, even though I assume at this point that I am not going into the academic field when I graduate, research has been important in finding my internships too. So those experiences and opportunities I got from traveling for research and the connections that I got with professors and how they recommended me for some jobs and positions and whatever have led me to a job when I graduate. So it's got other good things about it other than the personal academic growth and, you know, research awards. It does lead to other things too.
Yeah, a job for after you graduate, that's a good thing to have for sure. Awesome. Well, thank you all so much to our panelists for sharing your research experiences and to prospective students for joining us. We have other events coming up, other panels like this with maybe some repeat offenders with our students, but I think also lots of other new faces as well. And so hopefully you'll join us for one of those or one of our Honors College info sessions that we do every other Monday night. Thanks again for joining us, and I hope everyone has a good rest of their Monday and a great week ahead of them. Bye, everyone.